Join us as we go beyond the pixels in the Gamer's Edge podcast, the show that takes you behind the scenes of video gaming. Each episode dives into the realms of gaming and esports, bringing you exclusive interviews with both rising stars and seasoned veterans, coaches, insightful commentators, and industry leaders. So whether you're an aspiring pro gamer, a dedicated fan, or simply curious about the inner workings of gaming and esports, grab your headset and join us on this thrilling adventure through the virtual arenas where victory, camaraderie, and endless adventure await.
What is going on, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Gamer's Edge podcast, and we are joined today by the man, the myth, the legend. And if you know the tweet I'm talking about, when he was with the Subliners, he put the community on notice. And of course, from then, punking out some boys with we're not gonna name names, but just say somebody's sister was involved. He is now rocking with FaZe, phased up, and we're talking about that man, Gursh. What is going on, brother?
What's good, dude? Definitely great to meet you. Great to sit down. That's a lot of gas. That's a lot of good gas. So I appreciate it. And yeah, ready to do this thing.
Heck yeah. Well, of course, first, before we even get started on this thing, congratulations on your 24-hour stream. Of course,
Thank you.
every donation going towards the Movember and the men's health and everything like that. So it's really great to see. Not, we see so many, not only esports athletes, but content creators, and also just everyday people in our lives that, we need to be more open to this conversation of mental health and everything like that. Not just for men, but for women as well. But, men have always kind of got that cold shoulder, but it's great to see guys like yourself stepping up and helping out. I love to see it personally. So congratulations on that, brother.
Appreciate it, dude. I think for me, like I really try to always put the most like honest version of myself forward. And I think for me wanting to give back to any community, it just made the most sense to do a cause that I personally like relate to a lot. I mean, I feel like anytime I do a show like this, obviously like we celebrate the successes and the milestones that have led me here, but nobody ever asks about like the downs and the low points, right? Because obviously it's stuff we put behind us, but I think it's definitely important to also shine a light on the fact that everyone has their rough patches, and if you're able to push through it, it's great. But there's definitely struggles that sometimes aren't the easiest to deal with. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
happy it went well, and I mean that's just it's on the community, dude. Like people really showed up this year. Same thing last year, but obviously like it's great to see the improvement and the fact that it's bigger and better as intended.
Heck yeah. And if you are one of those people struggling, reach out to somebody. This life is amazing, and we don't want to see anybody go down a dark path. Please reach out to somebody, get some help. And if you don't know, man, reach out to me. I'll be glad to try and get you in the right direction of who to talk to. So please, 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 if you are in need, reach out. We want you here for as long as God intends it, if you do believe in God, or as long as science allows, if you believe in Scientology or anything like that. But we're going to jump in now. You yourself, you've had a diverse journey at such a young age, from being recognized as the Pacific Skyline Council Stafford District Scout of the Year,
Yes, sir.
and Eagle Scout as well. Foothill College for your associates in science. You've been a community mod for Optic Gaming, social media manager for NYSL, and now you're in your current role, of course, as the social media coordinator for FaZe and an associate producer for the Flank podcast. So how do all these experiences shape your approach to this gaming industry today? And what has helped you down this path as you've made this journey?
I mean, first of all, I commend you, dude. The Boy Scout stuff is definitely a deep cut. I don't think anyone's ever asked me about that, but it is an important part of my life. Definitely. It's like the one extracurricular activity I stuck with throughout like elementary school, high school, and I mean obviously it's shaped who I am today. I think just I mean using that as the beginning point to start from. I think aside from like making a lot of important relationships in my life and making a lot of friends that I still have to this day, it functions around like leadership, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the people running the troop and planning the activities are just like other kids. You nominate yourself for a position. I was a SPL, which means like in charge of the troop for like a full term, and then like half of one where I had to take over. And I think part of that has definitely helped me like be the person I am today. Not afraid to like be out there and voice my opinion, but also stand for certain things that I believe in. Um, and yeah, the rest is just random cuts from here and there. I mean, ups and downs and random points in my life, but regardless of what it is, it's led me here. Like, I went to Foothill College. Yeah, I was a bio major, but I'm on a completely different path now, right? So yeah, life is unpredictable. Everything happens for a reason, and it's crazy. It's crazy the way things work. Like not to ramble on, but like even certain things that you mentioned in there, like be a community mod. I mean, it was Envy at the time, but it shows up as Optic now because
Yeah.
obviously Envy's since dissolved and all that. But yeah, like some of the friends that I made in the Dallas Empire Discord during COVID when like all my other favorite sports were hit offline, figuring out like what they were gonna do. Those are friends that have stuck with me to this day. And yeah, I think a good way to encapsulate it without like randomly getting super specific about everything is just like life is a journey, and I feel like every little step of the way either like adds a piece to you, takes a piece away, but point is like that whole process of molding you is what shapes you as a person. So yeah, happy to be where I am, but I wouldn't be here without all that. So pretty
Now,
dope.
I do gotta touch on something, and well, a question for you. Dylan Pomeroy, who of course works with Oxygen, Boston Breach, he was on a couple episodes ago,
Mhm.
and he was talking about how his final project to like make Eagle Scout, he did it like 3 weeks before his 18th birthday. I mean, it seems like everybody, once they get to that like range, trying to balance, graduating high school, starting college, working, and still trying to get that Eagle Scout. Everybody just kind of sneaks in, right under the wire, right under that age limit. Was it the same for you, or were you just let me grind this out and we're gonna knock this out?
Yeah, thankfully it wasn't. I definitely hit like a point, I think like my junior year of high school where I was like, hey, like if I want to get this done, like I need to take charge and divert some more focus to it. I think being in like a position of leadership and just like getting all my stuff done in the background helped a lot. But yeah, when you're in Boy Scouts, you have until you're 18 to get everything done, and it naturally progresses that way because like it's associated with like school too. Like you enter a certain level if like you enter when you're in fifth grade or sixth grade. And I think I was also lucky um, because I went to like a private school for kindergarten, I've always been like half a year younger than everyone in my grade. So by the time I was like working on my Eagle, I was still a junior in high school. And I did my Eagle project the summer before senior year of high school. It was a pretty great opportunity because I got to help like refinish some tables at the elementary school that I actually went to. So it was like a weird full circle giving back type of thing. But yeah, luckily mine wasn't as last minute, but you're definitely right in saying that there's a lot of people that cut it close. Like I've seen some major strings pulled, some stuff here and there, but yeah, me and all of my friends luckily made it in on time, so it was
Nice.
pretty nice. We had like a one big trip the summer after high school before we all went our different ways for college. It was right before we all turned 18, and it was like, all right, like this is our last like trip that we can just go on as Boy Scouts, and we'll make it a good one. So yeah, a lot of memories associated with along the way.
Heck yeah. Well, now I'm gonna switch gears again for you. As a social media coordinator, how do you balance the dynamic of esports and gaming, and what strategies do you often, find most effective in engaging with the community, especially how can I put it? You see the flank get a little bit of heat, like there was the whole "fu Draza" thing going on and stuff like that. So the flank seems to get a little bit more heat where the team, of course, with the snaking drama and everything like that. How do you balance putting a positive spin on everything? And because I mean, y'all are dominant. You don't have to add positivity to anything related to FaZe, but you do have to sometimes spin things to the community that are sometimes shined in a negative light. So how do you handle those kind of things?
I think it's just like a matter of being honest and just putting things like the way they are. Like if we beat a team and it's 3-0, like obviously we're gonna go harder with the meme. But if it's like us just barely cutting it close, like we're not gonna act like we just, won the World Cup or something. Um and I think on the flank it's the same way. Like the Draza tweet, the intention behind it was never to specifically point fun at him. If you look at the way the tweet's phrased and like what the video is showing, it's at the end of the day is representing the fact that like from the fourth floor of this hockey stadium, you hear the crowd as if like they're standing right next to you. I mean, when I took that video too, we had our flank set up on the fourth floor. Like they had the little balcony looking out into the crowd. I was at the flank merch table right outside the door to their little room, and all I did was stand up, zoom in, and take a video. And it was pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, gaming is gaming. People are people. Sometimes people will take stuff like to heart and personal, but as long as your intentions are clear and a majority of people are able to understand that, then I feel like it's not worth like concerning yourself over. I mean, obviously, like no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be people that are super bothered about something or just don't take something in the way it was intended. But I feel like that's part of strategy, and sometimes you got to get over it. Sometimes you got to take it upon yourself and be like, hey, maybe I should have rephrased this in a way that was more clear. I mean, there's definitely times where like you'll see orgs, whether it's like something that I've worked on or just like other people delete something, take it down, put it up in a different way because what they had in mind didn't digest the same way. But yeah, I think for Call of Duty specifically, balancing between ATL and then the flank, it definitely helps to know the community. When you're brought up in the community, I think you get that natural like sense of what the average fan is thinking and what people kind of have in mind as their opinions and their regards for someone, and that way you can engineer something to fit that storyline. Whereas other times, like for example, if I'm making a tweet about Valorant tomorrow, like I'm not the most educated in Valorant, but that would be a situation where I take it upon myself to really understand like what the context of this certain event or this certain player is.
Yeah, I got you. I like that because again, especially in the COD community, COD guys, I love y'all. I do Discord leagues and stuff like that, but man, can the COD community just get super butthurt sometimes and take things and run with it.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but that's gaming, like you said. It's just it feels like everybody took the old Black Ops like online and they ran with that. That's the community now as the old Black Ops lobbies.
Yeah, 100%. I think the Reddit's like a great example of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, now, how do you see the intersection between your pursuit there with college, going after your associates for science, and your role in this gaming industry? Do you ever see things that you've learned, like for problem solving or anything for the critical thinking, that you're able to apply here in esports?
Um, I think there's definitely certain things like college does kind of subconsciously train you to to figure out how to organize your time and divert your focus to certain things. I definitely had a lot of different strategies I tried. Like I found out that I worked really well under pressure my freshman year of college. So I would low key like leave all of my essays for English up until like 2 3 hours before they were due, and just grind them out. But obviously like it was with the understanding that like I trusted my abilities, and like even then still knowing I need like 3 hours to do it instead of just like saving it until 11 p.m. and you have 59 minutes to to get it in there. But you live and you learn, and I think a big thing I realized about college and like even high school in a certain way, but college is really where you kind of set yourself out in the world, and it's less like hand holding and guiding. It's just like college gives you an opportunity to figure out who you are and learn more about yourself because you're on your own and it's up to you to figure it out. Like your teacher isn't going to call your parents and tell them about your grades, right? Like you got professors that are either going to pass you or fail you.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the main thing that's translated over now. Like the way I look at my workflow now and my work ethic and just like when there are things that I'm like more hardcore grinding on, things that I like I'm a bit like more relaxed on. It's usually comes down to the way like I'm self-managing my workflow and my priorities. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But same thing applies. Like even now I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning what strategies work and learning even more from the ones that don't.
Nice. Uh, how then did you take the time, and how was it funding a challengers team? Because, of course, you and I'm sorry, I forgot to write it down. It was you and
Steady.
there you go.
Yes, sir.
How did y'all sit down and carve out the time to say, hey, this is the team that we want to fund. These are the guys we want to fund. And what was that experience like?
I mean, honestly, like it wasn't a huge issue for us. When when Zuma had initially signed the Stallions guys during the Warzone Vanguard season, obviously like working with them and kind of like helping Tommy with the whole operation. I got to know the guys a lot. We'd like hop in TeamSpeak in the evenings, just like chill. And then I've always been friends with Eli since I worked in Challengers. So finding out that like he was also friends with them, like it was kind of a cool like thing where we got to bridge the gap and really like assimilate with each other. And so that relationship kind of carried over to the MW2 season where they didn't have as much or they weren't signed to Tommy because Tommy like was reconsidering the whole challengers thing. But we were still friends with them, and I think we were just in Discord one night, uh, talking to them. They talked to a challengers org, but it seemed like they still needed a certain amount of money to completely get out there, like afford the hotel. I think it might have been the team pass too. And I pinged Eli. I was like, bro, like unmute real quick. Low key, like it was around my birthday. I had some money to spare. I was like, if you want to go 50-50, let's just do it. But I think the thing we told the guys was like just to make it a point to put like our names in there. So now when you go on like Gamepedia, you'll see like Gursh and Standy as part of the journey. But yeah, it was more so just for fun and for the passion of wanting to see people I genuinely cared about just perform. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, how do you feel about like how can I phrase this? The importance, because of course we see challengers now going down to 3 events this year.
Mhm.
So how do you see the importance of something like the challengers or some type of feeder league? Of course, we know Tommy does, the eights and everything like that. He tries to host as much as he can to help people out. But how do you feel about the importance of essentially a minor league like challengers being viable?
I think at the end of the day, challengers and just like the amateur scene in general is what's going to make or break the community because the way I perceive like the COD community and the COD fan base is like your average Call of Duty competitive fan is a kid who like one day was playing pubs, hopped on with their friends and said, "Hey, let's play GBs." Like GBs is something that is just ingrained in the culture. And I think for the league to be in a position now where they're trying to obviously recruit new fans as everyone wants to, you want to grow your player base, your viewer base. It's a lot more difficult to do when there's no tangible path. Like if I'm someone who's a COD fanatic and I'm a huge fan, I don't want to watch a league and just see people like compete in something that's absolutely unattainable because that to me takes away like the relatability and the accessibility of the content. If I know like, hey, there's a clear path for me myself as a COD fan to grind it out and potentially get there, then it makes it a lot more real. Because you also then get to bridge the connection in your head, like, oh, like this guy who's performing right now, like Skies, he's someone who comes from this place and grinded his way like through this system and now is a pro player. Whereas like with the way the league is right now, and this is just honest criticism, like I feel like the franchise model makes it so things are a lot more gate kept. Obviously, we have like a lot of players from challengers that do get picked up, and credit to the teams that take those risks. But unfortunately, the opposite's also true. We see like a lot of pro players that have achieved a lot in their careers have to resort to just playing challengers or playing CCL. And I think if the league ever wants to grow and really wants to like have people associate with the league and get more interested in competitive COD, there's going to need to be those pathways that at the end of the day define them, or I guess just like give them that role and progressing to a COD fan or competing.
Could we potentially, or would you like to potentially see kind of like the Halo model where you see amateur teams getting into the open bracket tournaments with a shot at going against some of the bigger orgs?
100%. I think that's like the way the CWL functioned at its peak, and that was the best thing. I mean, if you really want to solidify 12 teams as the best in Call of Duty, and that's what like if the COD League has this idea in their head that like the reason they're making it a franchise model is so they can like have the cream of the crop and the best talent like be there, then I think they should also reinforce that by having those teams earn it. I mean, you saw things like FaZe and BO4 where they failed to qualify, right? And that was kind of like a reality check. It was like, hey, like there's other people out there that are good and there's other people that want it more. I feel like it really sucks when you see like bottom like take your pick of an bottom four team in the CDL, just so I'm not like pointing fingers. It sucks when you see like a bottom four team just randomly pick up four people because like someone was friends with them or someone has an idea of them, and those people get to exist in the league for the entire however month-long season, just like not winning anything. When there's kids and challengers that are hungry, that want it, and that are waiting to go out perform and earn their chance, but they can't because again things are so limited, they're so bound to contracts. I think like a huge point to make as well is just the fact that like I'm forgetting what I was going to say. Yeah, oh sorry, I think a huge thing to factor in is just the fact that like I feel like the longer that pros are put on these multi-year contracts with like hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases, they're gonna get more complacent because hey, I have a roster spot locked in. I'm gonna be on this team next year. I don't need to sit here and grind eights or stream or do more content, things that at the end of the day grow the league more. And it sucks because you have kids and challengers who are fighting tooth and nail, balancing school, balancing work, balancing college in some cases to earn their chance. And I feel like at the end of the day, people like that are what helps the league shine and grow the sport. So yeah.
I agree. I do hope there is a revamp to it, though. I know a lot of guys that are in school right now as well, and they're like, man, they don't get to, when scrims start at like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're like, man, I miss half my scrims because I'm still in class and stuff. So hopefully there's some type of revamp. That way, I know Call of Duty pros already keep vampire hours, so to speak. But hopefully there's some kind of adjustment. That way it can try and level the playing field just a little bit. But of course, your role, we've been talking a lot about community engagement and everything like that, and just how crucial that is. Can you share some strategies that you've employed to, through social media to really hook in that fan base?
I think one thing that's just shifted in the social media landscape nowadays is the change in brand voice. I mean, there was definitely a time where you looked at any corporate account and it was just that corporate, like very, I guess, just artificially created wording and just artificially created posts. It definitely felt like, hey, I'm following this business, but it is a business. To a shift now where one thing that brands have come to value and one thing that just works now is brands being a lot more genuine with their voice. I think New York was a great example of it because there were definitely times where like we tweet something off the account and people instantly would tag me on my personal account and be like, Gursh, good one, or I'd tweet at like 2 a.m. in the morning and then someone would reply saying like, Gursh, go to sleep. And that's not to credit myself, but it's more so just to establish the fact that our brand voice was so down to the level of like an average COD fan, where people started associating it with a person and not just as a team account. And I think the flank right now functions in the exact same way, where people look at flank tweets as like Gursh writing a tweet, and less of like, hey, I'm gonna follow this page to figure out when the show is, and leave it at just that. Um, and yeah, I think it's less of a strategy and more so something that I'd label as like a natural transition. I mean, the what we were doing when like I was coming up in challengers, or just like the way I try and tweet off like my account anyway, it's just like, being very truthful about like what COD fans are feeling, and how things are. And I think at the end of the day, that's what people grasp the most. I mean, to connect to the same point I made about challengers, like it's the relatability. Like if you're not going to want to compete, if you can't like relate to the journey that the pros have taken to get there, because it's not as possible for you, you're not going to want to follow a page if you can't relate to the content that they're posting, because it's not something that you can connect to. It's just going to be like sponsored posts and
Yeah.
super over the top branded content, and not a meme about like the biggest storyline in the community at the time.
Now, has there been any shift in your strategy going from New York to Atlanta, or have you just kind of just been like, man, I'm just gonna do me because doing me is what got me this spot?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I didn't really start helping out with the ATL side of things until like mid season last year, I think right before Major 3. Prior to that, it was just focusing on like the FaZe esports sides and the FaZe main brand, and that's definitely where the shift took place, because FaZe, like I was definitely coming into like a publicly traded company, knowing all of like the decorum that comes with that. And I think that's also an important thing to learn. Like, while many up and coming brands nowadays find the success in being like super tongue in cheek, shit posty, like just off the cuff, there's definitely a side that you need to still maintain in terms of professionalism. A, to have people take your brand seriously, but B, to still cater to sponsors that keep your brand running. Like if I have like a post for Steel Series going up, I'm not gonna approach it the same way that I would just like a meme of one of our players like hitting a four piece, right? Like it's definitely knowing the time and place for everything. And I think the valuable skill that I picked up is being able to shift between the two now that I'm at FaZe. But yeah, that's the other side of that question is ATL specifically. And it's kind of a funny thing, because I was brought into ATL to do all the stuff that I was doing at New York. Like they had me hop on the ATL account last year and help out, because they felt like they could use a boost in some of like the match day content and the primo shit talk. So that's exactly what we came out with, and started firing on. So yeah, definitely some things that connected, and that still stayed true to, but some things definitely had to change, and at the end of the day ended up adding to the skill set. So
Do you
yeah.
feel like learning to walk that line is probably the biggest advice you can give to someone, trying to come up and be a social media manager, or is there something else that you think is key for them to learn?
No, I think it is walking that line. I definitely wouldn't have gone to where I am without, keeping an ear to the scene, and contacting people that were working in the league at the time, and learning about what they do, and how they approach things. And I feel like that's the same token of advice I give to people now. Like, learning strategies that other people use, but also understanding how you're going to have to handle not only yourself, but also the work you do when you're in that position. I mean, what the point I made about being like a tongue-in-cheek brand voice and just like posting memes all day, I feel like that's something that you can pick up anyone off the internet and have them slot into. But the big thing that I feel like a lot of people don't realize, and the reason that like anyone can't just go out there and say, hey, I want to run social media for this and this, is because it also comes with the burden of the professional roles that you have to do. I mean, the hands-on stuff is one thing, but we haven't even touched upon everything that comes outside of that. The meetings you have to be in, like creating social plans for sponsors, which I mean that's literally what I was doing before I hopped on the Zoom call. um, and what it takes to exist in a professional working environment with other people.
And
So yeah, like
You're actually
when it
touching
comes
on where I'm about to go with my next one is what's it like sitting down and creating these? And didn't you also produce the little video and stuff for the Draza announcement?
for the Drosla one, that's actually credit to some of the content guys at FaZe. They came to me and they knew I was pretty passionate about like all things Call of Duty, but I'd expressed to our content department when I came into the company, just saying like I wanted to get more involved with that side of things, and in the next few years maybe shift away from socials, focus more on those endeavors as a new goal. And they were like, hey, perfect opportunity. So yeah, that was something really valuable, where I got to sit down with the content team with Draza, and then obviously the rest of the guys at ATL, Kason included. This is before we'd announced Kason as a co-owner, but he was still in the background, like helping us with the creative vision. And yeah, thankfully enough, it amounted to something that I feel like the community enjoyed a lot. Um, but yeah, like something like that is just like knowing it's a great example of what I've been talking about, because it's a good mix of like knowing what you're gonna have to stick to in terms of what the league wants, what the requirements are for the video, certain things with sponsors that we can and can't do. Like we had to clear out certain things from like our script, and then it's also the more genuine and like more homely part of it, which is knowing the COD community, knowing what jokes in there are gonna like be cool references to certain things. And so yeah, it's a good what's the word I'm looking for?
A
I
good
don't know, but it's
good
it's a good
balance.
like it's a good final combination of everything that contributes to the daily work I do.
Cool. Now, during these meetings, are you ever like, "Hey, I've got this idea," and they just kind of look at you kind of crazy, and they're like, "Chris, you gotta calm that down, bruh." And if so, are you able to give me a slight example of it?
Yeah, I think a lot of credit goes to the rest of the guys in our social team, because they keep me pretty grounded, or they'll like gut check me on certain things that I sometimes suggest, that like, someone like catches you on something and say, hey, that might not fly the most, or saying this or doing this might potentially like piss off one of our sponsors because like they have a conflict with this company. I think the most like obvious example out there is when FaZe was going through some of the drama earlier this year with like the OGs. I mean, I had a lot of like little tongue-in-cheek jokes that I wanted to put out there, or just like ideas that would show that we're conscious of the situation and not like completely cut ourselves off from posting or acting like nothing's happening.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, like because I had like the other voices in my head just reminding me like, hey, like we got certain things that we can and can't say because we are a public company, and we do have like certain relations that might get hurt by us addressing something in a certain way. We might have to hold off, and yeah, that's like I think the greatest example. Like it was an opportunity where I had to turn off that whole like shit posty mode in my head, and focus more on the professional side of things.
nice. Well, of course, through all the achievements, we listed some of them earlier. What do you feel like looking back? What is the best achievement you've achieved so far, and what is a future endeavor that you are looking at? What's that next goal for you?
I've thought about this a lot recently, only because I did another podcast like a few weeks ago where I had the same question, and I mean, like reflecting on it since, I think the one thing I'd label as my biggest achievement is just like joining FaZe, not because it's FaZe, but because of how it affected the rest of my life. I mean, I was at a crossroads where I was considering either like transferring to a 4-year university with my biology pathway, or giving my all to esports, and like I had offers from New York as well, figuring out how to go full time with them. FaZe had approached me. I was talking to some other companies here and there too, but at the end of the day, I think having FaZe come to me, a company that I'd grown up watching and that I'd always wanted to work at, but coming to me with like a very valuable opportunity in life that was sustainable enough to make a career. It was something that I think defined everything that happens from here on out. I mean, like I moved out to LA. Chose to not transfer to 4 year, get student loans, all of that. And at the end of the day, it's like I think the best way to put it is, I mean, when I started college, I was a bio major because I thought it would make me money and I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And naturally, something that found me was esport, or like the professional side of esports, and the opportunities in it. And now I get to do something that I'm passionate about every day for work, and it's been the biggest blessing. I think I forgot the second part of the question,
Oh,
but
where do you see what's that next endeavor for you?
I think for me it's content. And I hate saying content because it's such a like overused buzzword now. It's also very cliche to like move to LA and want to like upload videos on YouTube or do this and that. It's just like the such a basic overdone pipeline. But I think the difference I'd point out is just, for me, it's more so for myself. Like, I'm not doing it for money or whatever comes from it. It's more so just like I definitely like the way I operate in Call of Duty, and it's definitely been a blessing because I feel like whenever I put my all into something or show passion for a project, or for example, the draws announcement, the feedback that comes with it, like, feels really meaningful, and it's great to see something like impact people in a certain way. But I feel like at the end of the day, like, not only am I doing that from like, it's not like me putting out something, it's a team putting out something. So it's not for myself. And I also feel like, like memes and social media content, they're great, but they're always short-lived. And I want to start focusing on projects that I'm passionate about, and also things that I feel like will mean a lot more down the line. So I've, created plans for like content I want to make on YouTube, just talking about things I'm passionate about, movies, music, things like that. And yeah, maybe even a gaming side where I get into some of the games that I've grown up super passionate about. I mean, FIFA is one of them. Um, and yeah, just kind of escaping, like taking a little break from the
Yeah,
the Call of Duty side of things.
you heard it here first, guys. Make sure you tune into that gaming channel. Gersh is going to become a horror gaming streamer every day.
Oh, hell no. No, no, no. We're avoiding that one for sure.
Well,
But yeah.
so I've got it. This is one, and it's one of those curveball questions that I haven't sent to you. And since we got on, I have thought about it because I see the FaZe jerseys hanging behind you. Describe that feeling the first time they go to you and they're like, here's your very own. You've earned this FaZe jersey.
So it's funny because like I have like one of the normal ones, like the ones that you'd see our CS team wear on stage. I've also got like, I'm trying to remember which one. I think I have another Man City one. But yeah, it was definitely a great feeling of like bringing things full circle and getting to assimilate with the company. I mean, again, like my introduction to gaming in general was FaZe, and my introduction to competitive Call of Duty back in freshman year of high school, like watching Black Ops 3, was the FaZe team as well. That's actually why I have these two up, because they mean the most to me. I mean, this is like the tricolor jersey. It's the one that Zuma, Enable, attached, like all them wore during the Black Ops 3 season. So it's the one I have the most memories associated with. Also, when I followed CS:GO initially, like that was during the tricolor era. And then I'm a big sports fan. I mean, soccer, football are both like at the top for me. I'm a big Man City guy, so it's cool that we had a collab with them. And it's just dope to have that, because to me it's like this is what feels like home, like Call of Duty and core phase. And this is like everything else in my life that just like still connects to it and revolves around it. So
Nice. And now it all just
yeah,
blends all together for you.
exactly.
Nice, nice. Well, considering your experience, your achievements, we've gone over all that stuff. Of course, personally, professionally, you know, where do you see we've had it discussed on the show before, the esports bubble going? We're seeing stuff like version 1 now gone, G2 coming in and stuff like that. FaZe itself now being sold. Where do you see esports going, heck, even in a year from now?
I think COVID was definitely like a big boost for esports, just because everyone was at home, and And I mean, it's hard not to focus your attention on the one thing that's still like able to be successful with people and being at home. I mean, that's why streaming had such a big boost. That's why games like Warzone and Fortnite benefited a lot from COVID. That's why PC sales were through the roof, right? Graphics cards were hard to get. But I think a lot of that rapid growth didn't come with the creation of a sustainable business model across the industry. I mean, that's why like a lot of companies are trying to figure out finances now, and I think it might have been the result of people like wanting to focus more on the quick profit they were getting during that time. That was just such a big boom in the industry, and not think about the future and how long term that would figure things out. But I think the unique thing about esports is that the fan base is always going to be there. I mean, gaming as an industry will never fade away. If anything, it's only going to get bigger. It's going to get more integrated into the world we live in. And I think with that, there's going to be the competitive nature, but the fan bases for a lot of these esports too are just so significant that they'll never fade out. I mean, it's easy to focus on the smaller examples like Overwatch and predict the end of the world just because the Overwatch League isn't figuring itself out, but that's the thing. Like the Overwatch League fans are still gonna like eventually organize some competition. I know they're working on stuff right now. And if something like that were to, God forbid, happen to a massive esport like League of Legends, which we're talking like millions for
Yeah.
viewership, like there's no way that just shuts down and then ceases to exist. I feel like even short term, there's a lot that like we don't consider being in the US because we haven't been exposed to it. But there's just so much more like left to do on the road where it's like the struggles right now mean nothing because we'll get to those points. Like if you go to Korea right now, there's ads for like esports teams or like promotions for video games on like buses, right? Whereas here, like, yeah, you'll get like a Call of Duty trailer during the Super Bowl, but you don't go outside and like look at the bus stand and see like a picture of Scump, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in a Best Buy on the optic display you will, but that's very niche and focused towards that. I mean, even in Brazil, like Loud, who's one of the biggest esports team from Brazil, like they had a full run of stuff with Burger King, where every Burger King in a certain region like rebranded to green with the Loud colors. They had like special themed meal and packaging. Like that is like national level significance, and I think we're getting there, but there's so much more to look forward to, that I think invalidates like the feeling right now that like the walls are crashing down and all that. And I think esports will get there one way or another.
Nice. Well, of course, I said we'd try and keep it, 20, 30 minutes. I know we're going past that a little bit
I'm
here.
I'm good, dude. Don't even
Oh,
worry about
cool. I do want to thank you, of course, for coming on and everything like that.
for sure.
Now I got to put you on the hot seat.
All right, let's do it.
What's going on? Is phase number one right now in the preliminary, I guess you could say, scrims? How you like in this season? Is Draza fitting that role that y'all were hoping to, and being that S&D monster for y'all?
So you're in luck because just last night I made my own personal tier list with some friends in Discord, so I'm gonna pull that up. Um, I'll touch on the Draza thing initially though, because I know there was like a lot of beef between him and the team for the season. And I think the fact that they've like put that aside, a team together, is already a great sign because it shows that they have like a much bigger goal in mind, and the maturity and the connection that they have in game is has defined everything else. Whereas like I feel like typically it works the other way where people are like friends first, or like they like each other first and the idea of teaming, and then they have to figure it out in game. And from what I've heard just internally, Draws has been like one of the greatest moves they've made in a while. I mean, they haven't made many, but still like he's come in, he's been that like voice of leadership that a lot of people thought we'd lose with Slasher going, and yeah, I mean, to break it down team by team, like no jinx or anything, but I do have FaZe in S tier just because we're talking about the team that's been the number one seed for 4 years in a row. It seems like they've only upgraded at the position. I've got New York there as well because I feel like Sib brings a lot in terms of his individual gameplay. That in most ways is an upgrade to the team. A tier, I've got Toronto and LA Thieves. Toronto because they've made some big changes, but I feel like other things like might need to be figured out, like out of game. And then Thieves, I feel like are being super slept on. I look at that team and like the financial situation they were in when they wanted to build this roster, and frankly, they've done better than expected. And I truly believe that roster is like a group of four that's going to succeed. B tier, I've got Boston and Optic. Not much to talk about there. I mean, Optic, like I'm kind of just waiting on them to prove themselves because scrims haven't like really shown much of that. C tier, I've got Rocker, Surge, and Carolina teams that like could figure it out, but might need some changes here and there. Rocker and Surge, I think definitely should make changes eventually. Actually, Rocker might be good. And then D tier, I've got LAG, Vegas, and Miami, just because on paper those teams aren't like the most exciting or inspiring, but you never know which way things could go, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yes. Well, you guys heard it here first. We're gonna clip this, and come into the season, we're gonna get you back on, and we're gonna
Perfect.
play this clip just so we can see where it stacks up.
I'll stick by it, man. I mean, last year I got the benefit of the New York stuff. Like I've been telling them from the start that New York was going to do well. I have multiple tweets about it too, just talking about like the dynamics of that team, and I think definitely like getting to be on the inside on that team and know like the structure being like what the coaches think and all that does help. But yeah, like there's literally a clip of the flank last year where they're building a tier list, and Tommy has to pause the show because he's like Gursh is spamming chat saying like New York should be S tier, and like they're gonna do this and this. And I mean, I got the last laugh, right? So so it's good to stick by what I believe in, as I've learned.
Well, I do have one last question for you.
Yes, sir.
Again, I can't thank you enough for coming on and even staying past what we preliminarily discussed. Uh, but my last question for you is, now you're there at FaZe, you have all these big name streamers, the big name, of course, in COD. You were already at New York, who had Crim 6. Now Crim is over there at FaZe. Is there any big name that you have not worked with that you are looking forward to working with? Or maybe is there somebody in the league not with FaZe that, maybe on a freelance side that you would love to work with?
I think my one of my favorite players right now in the league is Scrappy. I know like that's not like the biggest hot take. He definitely has a lot of fan base, but in my like my history of following traditional sports, I think I've always related to the players that talk a lot of trash but are able to back it up, or at least like keep pushing and bring like an extra level, an extra element to the game. I mean, my favorite soccer player of all time is Ibrahimovic, because he's very like full of
The
himself, and
God.
he's
Thank you.
exactly like he's very self-absorbed, but you watch any of his debuts for like the 9-10 teams he's been on, every time he has his debut match, he's scoring a banger. Like whether it's like a long range strike or an overhead kick, like he will be there.
Dude,
And I respect
Zlatan
Scrappy
is
for that.
top 3 all time in my head. He is
100%.
amazing.
100%. Like Scrappy definitely individually brings a lot to the table. I mean, last year like they definitely got embarrassed in Champs Grand Finals, but the fact that like this whole offseason has been littered with clips of Scrappy like still talking his shit, beefing with Clay. I mean, obviously a lot of it isn't like genuine hatred, but the fact that he's there like sticking by himself and believing in himself is the biggest thing, dude. Like there's also nothing that pisses me off more when I'm playing eights with my friends and someone gets pissed off because like they got their body shot map one and all of a sudden their vibes are just like wrecked and they're not like locked in. I'm like, dude, like there's so much more to this, right? Like you just I don't know. I feel like the mental aspect of everything is always gonna be there, and I admire the people that are able to, you know,
Yeah,
just
just
believe in
kind of
themselves the
regain
most.
and go right back at it.
Exactly.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, man. It means the world to me, and hopefully FaZe does some things. Of course, I'm based in Texas. Uh, I've got Optic stuff in my thing, so
I
I'm
got you.
I'm gonna be rooting for Optic, but hopefully we meet y'all in the finals because
100%.
I'm hoping for a great year. Man, I got one question for you. Do you have any inside information? Are we gonna be on Twitch? Are we gonna be on YouTube? I have yet to see any kind of announcement.
I asked the flank guys yesterday if like I could just tweet it off my account because like I won't get in trouble for it. But then they remind me that like there are some certain things that could go wrong. So I can't say. What I will say is to put it intentionally in like a very vague way. The decision is interesting.
All right. Well,
That's all I'll
I
say.
will just keep my eyes peeled then, and we'll wait and see. So, again, thank you so much for coming on. Any last words you
100%.
want to say to FaZe fans or anything?
I mean, obviously, phase up, and even if the year doesn't turn out well, the passion is appreciated. I think the biggest thing for me in my role is people don't see the support on socials or the hate on socials as much as I do because I'm the one running the page, right? So like if we all stick together and just rally behind the players, even if it's like people from other teams in the community, like let's just have a good year, dude. Because I'll be there for it. So yeah,
Hell yeah.
that's all.
Well, guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Of course, we're going to have another spotlight coming on after this episode. We're going to have another one rolling right after this. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys again so much for tuning in to the Gamer's Edge podcast. But until next time, guys, peace.